So I was running back-end publishing systems at the NBA for about 5 or 6 years for all the NBA team sites, and it was evidence that the web was kind of finding a erosion, that it was kind of eroding away, and I wanted to kind of figure out a way to kind of stay relevant and look at and work on things that may be the next thing, and some of them will pan out and some of them won't. So an opportunity came about that allowed me to focus just on that within the NBA, and so I've been doing that for about 3 years now. I've always kind of kept up with various tech trends, but as my job shifted to focusing on this about 3 years ago, it's definitely become a more of an acute focus for me. But it's also just kind of fun to kind of read the tea leaves and figure out who's good as far as kind of having the analysis side of things. And with podcasts being so big, there's so many good podcasts, especially these like daily really short ones of like what happened today in the world of tech. So it's fun to kind of almost feel like a Wall Street analyst at times, thinking, okay, I'm listening to all of these updates. They're doing this, they developed this, they copied that, they're on the verge of launching this hardware, and trying to see where you think all of this is ultimately going to go. And does this benefit us as the publisher, or does this hinder us as the publisher? And certainly we still see a lot of the kind of platform things that make it hard for publishers, like the invocation name model, which kind of prevents you from getting to third-party functionality because it's just not natural how people talk like that. But I think that we will get to a place where it is very ubiquitous, and you can kind of speak and you can configure your default sources of information the same way that Twitter or like Apple News kind of allows you to say, okay, we have this aggregation service. Now you pick and choose and personalize how you want to receive content and where that content comes from. Voice is going to continue to fade into the background, right? That we talk about it, and we have specific pieces of hardware that are really just voice platform technologies right now. I think that will fade back, and I think that your phone or whatever that form factor as your primary device is, some people rely more on their smartwatch than they do their phone. I think it's going to just become a natural part of those pieces of equipment or those devices, and then you'll really kind of get entrenched into this OS level ecosystem, so that if I have an iOS device, you're probably going to need to, you'll have your CarPlay device in your car, and then your Apple TV at home, and that will be able to connect the user through the journey of, I'm out and about, I only have my mobile device, now I'm in my car, and now I'm home, and now I want to, pick back up where I left off on, the best available screen when you're at home. You will just kind of forget that you have hardware that is a voice product, and all of your products will have a base layer of voice navigation, and it will seem less about a product itself, and it will just be a part of all of those pieces of hardware. And we won't have like projects that are or product managers in organizations that it's like, I'm a voice person. It's just going to become another natural piece of navigation that everyone will have to be doing and focusing on. So whether that's something that you can generate kind of at a core level and then it distributes to all of your platforms, we have 25 different platforms that we support right now, or if you have to continue to build it in isolation within each vertical, that's, I hope we gravitate more towards the former, where there's kind of a central voice navigation component, especially like transport controls like play, stop, start, skip, next, volume up, those kind of commodity type of voice interactions. Hopefully you don't have to build those individually on each individual platform, and you can kind of just have a distributed model of pushing that functionally out to all of your other products and platforms. We had a lot of bad preconceptions when we first started building our very first Alexa skill, and just being an actual user of that platform. So we in the emerging platform space, a lot of times we kind of, through business development deals or whatnot, kind of these types of projects can kind of just get handed to you, and you say, okay, this is what strategically our organization is going towards on these, but you have to actually know and have used these things. And maybe a better way of saying that is actually, especially on your phone, like, do you use it? Do you set reminders? Do you ask Siri or Google Assistant questions? Have you ever watched YouTube videos that kind of break down. There's 1,000 different, Alexa versus Google versus Siri kind of lab tests and things. Like, go and watch those. It's fascinating. You start to learn a lot about what the user expectation and the user experiences are beyond just the SDK documentation that you can get from the dev consoles, right? Like, that's the big piece that was a learning curve for me, was really not just looking at this from an engineering challenge, but like, what is it that people actually want? There's no real established use cases on these things yet. Yes, we know, like, setting timers and getting the weather and basic questions and things like that are very common use cases right now, but those are also all more or less first-party functionality things. So that doesn't necessarily, you can't just replicate kind of that understanding for third-party functionality, because you're just going to lose out to first-party, especially if it's kind of commodity data that can be licensed or that the platforms already have to some degree.